Imagine this. You step off the plane in Sydney, someone calls you mate before you've even left the terminal, and within minutes you're being asked if you want to join for a snag on the Barbie. To outsiders, this might sound like complete nonsense, but to Australians, this is just everyday life. Australia has a way of making sense only to the people who live here. A mix of slang, culture, food, weather, and even wildlife that outsiders find confusing, hilarious, or downright terrifying. Today, we're diving into 10 things only Australians will truly understand. But here's the kicker. If you're not from down under, you'll probably leave this video thinking, wait, do Aussies actually live like this every day? Before we dive in, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And if you're Aussie, what's the one thing foreigners never get right about your culture? Number 1. The Aussie slang and word shortening obsession. Let's start with the most obvious thing outsiders notice. Australians absolutely cannot resist shortening words. Breakfast? Nah, it's brekkie. Sunglasses, sunnies, barbecue, always Barbie. A gas station? That's the servo. And it doesn't stop there. Aussies will add E or O to anything until it sounds almost like baby talk. But it's completely normal. A politician might be Polly, an afternoon is Arvo, and a tradesman is just a tradie. The thing is, this isn't just about being lazy with language. It's part of the national identity. A casual, no-stress approach to communication. Aussies aren't about fancy words or formality. They'll slice a 5-syllable word in half and toss on a cheeky ending because why not? Foreigners, on the other hand, often stand there confused. Imagine being invited to smoko at the servo. That's a cigarette break at the gas station. Or hearing someone say, let's hit Macca's for brekkie. That's McDonald's for breakfast. The funny part? Even Australians admit they sometimes take it too far. But if you don't get it, you're instantly marked as an outsider. It's almost like a secret code that says, yeah, mate, you're one of us. Quick check. If you're still here, drop Straya in the comments to let me know you've cracked the code. But slang is just the beginning. Because once you've figured out how Aussies talk, you'll have to tackle what they eat. Number 2. The foods and drinks outsiders just don't get. If you've ever tried to convince a non-Aussie to eat Vegemite, you'll know it usually ends in disaster. Australians grow up spreading this salty, dark brown paste on toast so thin you can barely see it. But foreigners? They smear it like Nutella and immediately gag. And then there are the snacks. Tim Tams, chocolate biscuits so addictive there's even a Tim Tam slam, where you bite off the ends and use it like a straw for hot tea. Meat pies, not sweet but savory, and eaten at sporting events the way Americans eat hot dogs. Lamingtons, sponge cake squares coated in chocolate and coconut. But here's the crown jewel of Aussie drinking culture. The goon sack. If you're not Australian, you probably have no idea what this is. Basically, it's cheap boxed wine, and the silver plastic bag inside the box becomes the sack. College students and backpackers worship it. There are even games like Goon of Fortune, where you peg the sack to a clothesline and spin it until it points to the unlucky person who has to drink. Outsiders see this and think, what on earth are these people doing? But for Aussies, it's a rite of passage. Let me know in the comments. Would you dare to try a goon sack, or is that where you draw the line? And just when you think you've survived the food and drink quirks, Australia throws something else at you. The weather. Number 3. Weather, climate extremes, and survival mindset. Here's something outsiders never fully grasp. In Australia, the weather isn't just a conversation starter. It's survival. One week, you're sweltering through 45-degree heat. That's Celsius, by the way. The next week, half the state is underwater from flash floods. And in between, bushfires so massive they turn the sky blood red and send entire towns fleeing overnight. To live in Australia is to live with extremes. Kids grow up with fire drills that aren't just for schools but for their homes. Families have go bags ready during summer because bushfire season is a very real threat. Then there's the wildlife that comes with it. Outsiders freak out at headlines like snake found in toilet or spider the size of a dinner plate hiding under the car visor. For Australians, it's Tuesday. But here's the twist. Instead of running from it, Aussies almost laugh it off. You'll hear phrases like, ah yeah, it's a bit hot today, while the thermometer's melting, or she'll be right, as someone clears floodwater out of their garage. That attitude isn't denial. It's a coping mechanism. Because when your environment is this unpredictable, panic doesn't help. But humor does. Question for you. Would you survive Aussie weather? Drop a sunfire, wave emoji combo in the comments if you think you could handle it. And yet, weather's only one part of the survival game. The real secret weapon? The strange little phrases that Australians throw around every day? Number 4. Quirky sayings, expressions, and idioms. If you thought Aussie slang was weird, wait until you hear their full expressions, because sometimes it sounds like a completely different language. Within kui, meaning not far off. Originally, a kui was a bush call used to find people across the landscape. Today it's still alive in everyday speech. Hard yaka means hard work, coming from Aboriginal language. If you've done a long shift digging holes, that's some serious yaka. Chalkers, completely full. A train might be chalkers during rush hour. Fair dinkum basically means genuine, true, or authentic. Politicians love throwing this one around to sound relatable. She'll be right. The most Aussie phrase of all. It means it'll be fine, even if it clearly won't. The magic of these sayings is that they reveal the national mindset. Resilient, laid back, never too serious. They come from a mix of British influence, Aboriginal roots, and decades of Aussie creativity. And to outsiders, they're baffling. A foreigner hearing, "Yeah mate, she'll be right after some hard yaka, we're within kui of finishing," has no clue what just got said. But every Aussie nods like it's perfectly clear. If you're watching from outside Australia, which of these phrases confused you the most? Comment your guess, and Aussies in the chat will let you know if you got it right. But sayings are only half the story, because the laid-back attitude behind them explains so much more about the culture itself. Number 5. Laid-back lifestyle and the no-worries mindset. Here's the thing about Australians. They don't just say no worries, they live it. If you drop your coffee, no worries. Show up late? No worries. Forget your wallet at the cafe? The barista might literally say, "No worries, mate, just pay next time." This attitude can be both inspiring and infuriating. On one hand, it creates a culture that's relaxed, friendly, and welcoming. On the other, try dealing with Aussie tradies when you want something fixed urgently. That job might get done, eventually. But it all ties back to a bigger value, the fair go. Aussies believe everyone deserves a shot, whether you're rich, broke, local, or immigrant. It's baked into the national character, a mix of equality, mateship, and not taking life too seriously. Of course, there are moments when this casual vibe clashes with the real world. Global visitors sometimes mistake it for laziness or lack of urgency. But for Aussies, it's survival. In a country where the weather, wildlife, and distance are already brutal, why waste energy stressing over the small stuff? Do you wish your country had more of this no-worries vibe? Or would it drive you crazy? Let me know below. And this relaxed lifestyle shows up in one very specific ritual, one that outsiders think is just a meal, but in Australia it's practically sacred. Number 6. Food rituals, outdoor culture, and the sacred barbie. Now, if there's one thing Australians treat almost like a religion, it's the barbecue, or as they call it, the barbie. To outsiders, it might just look like people grilling sausages. But in Australia, a barbie is more than food. It's where mates gather, families bond, and politics gets debated while someone argues over the right way to flip a steak. Public parks even have free barbecue stations, something visitors can't believe until they see it. Imagine walking into a city park in Europe or the US and finding a hot plate ready to cook your snags, only in Australia. And of course, the jokes about "throw another shrimp on the barbie," which Australians never actually say. That line came from an old American tourism ad. Aussies don't eat shrimp, they eat prawns. Huge difference. The barbie isn't the only ritual, though. Outdoor culture defines Aussie life. Surfing, cricket in the backyard, camping in the bush. Summers revolve around beaches, and weekends vanish into long afternoons outside. But here's the catch. Even these beloved traditions aren't free from debate. Australia Day, for example, often marked with barbecues, has become one of the most controversial holidays in the country. To some, it's a celebration of national pride. To others, it's a painful reminder of colonization. That tension grows every year. Quick poll. Should Australia Day stay on January 26th or should it move? Drop your take in the comments. I guarantee it'll start a fiery debate. And speaking of fiery, nothing captures Australia's unique character like the creatures that crawl, swim, and fly just outside your door. Number 7. Wildlife, bugs, and the fear-respect combo. Let's be real. When most outsiders think of Australia, they immediately picture deadly animals. And honestly, they're not wrong. Spiders big enough to cover your face, snakes coiled under car seats, crocodiles lurking in the northern rivers, and of course, sharks patrolling some of the world's most famous beaches. It sounds like a horror movie, but for Australians, it's Tuesday. Kids grow up learning not to stick their hands in boots without checking for redbacks. Surf lifesavers watch for sharks the same way drivers watch for traffic lights. The craziest part? Most Aussies don't even flinch. You'll see videos of people casually escorting giant spiders out of their house with a broom, or calmly stepping aside for a snake to cross the path. Why? Because alongside the fear is a deep respect. Australians know the land isn't theirs alone. The wildlife was here first, and survival means learning to live with it, not wipe it out. Of course, outsiders still lose their minds. Tourists will scream at the sight of a harmless gecko while an Aussie shrugs and says, "Ah, he's just keeping the mozzies away." If you've ever had a terrifying animal encounter, Aussie or not, share it in the comments. Let's see who's got the wildest story. But animals aren't the only thing that divide Aussies from outsiders. Even within Australia itself, rivalries and accents create a whole new layer of identity. Number 8. Identity, pride, and state rivalries. Here's something many outsiders miss. Being Australian isn't just about one national culture. It's about which state you're from. Ask someone from Sydney what they think of Melbourne and you'll get an eye roll. Victorians will brag about their coffee culture while Queenslanders laugh that they've got the best beaches. South Australians? They'll swear their wine is unmatched. And then there's Western Australia, which might as well be its own country with how far away it feels. These rivalries show up in sport, slang, and even little lifestyle habits. Melbourne loves its unpredictable weather and AFL football. Sydney clings to its beaches and NRL, while Queenslanders will fight anyone who insults state of origin rugby. And then there's the accent. Outsiders often think there's just one Australian accent, but locals know the difference. Broad Aussie, cultivated Aussie, and the classic strine, that thicker, drawn-out version, all signal where you're from and how you grew up. Add to that the influence of indigenous languages on place names, from Woolloomooloo to Wollongong, and you've got a patchwork of identities within one nation. Aussies watching, which state do you think secretly runs the country? And non-Aussies, could you even pronounce Woolloomooloo without stumbling? Try it in the comments. But identity in Australia isn't just about rivalry, it's also about the modern debates shaking up the idea of what it really means to be Australian today. Number 9. Modern debates and the Aussie identity shift. Here's the truth. Being Australian isn't as simple as shrimp on the Barbie or a cheeky no worries anymore. The country is in the middle of an identity shift. Take Australia Day. For decades, it was just a day of barbecues, fireworks, and national pride. But now, more and more Australians are questioning the date. January 26th marks the arrival of the First Fleet, and for Indigenous Australians, it represents invasion and loss. The debate has become one of the hottest cultural flashpoints in the country. Then there's the question of multiculturalism. Modern Australia is one of the most diverse nations on Earth. Walk through any major city and you'll hear dozens of languages, see food from every culture, and meet people from every background. For younger Aussies, this blend is the new normal. But it creates tension too. What does it really mean to be Australian in 2025? Is it about mateship and slang? Is it about honoring ancient Indigenous roots? Or is it about embracing a globalized, ever-changing culture? The debates can get heated. Some cling tightly to old traditions. Others demand radical change. And yet, through it all, Australians still find common ground, whether it's cheering on the national cricket team or complaining about how much rent has gone up. I want to hear from you. What do you think defines being Australian today? Drop your answer below. Aussies, non-Aussies, everyone's welcome. And that question leads us straight to the final piece of the puzzle. Number 10. The blend of old and new. What only Australians truly understand when you put it all together. The slang, the food, the weather, the wildlife, the rivalries, the controversies. You realize something. Being Australian is about contradictions. It's a country that jokes about deadly spiders while handing you a cold beer. It's a people who shorten every word yet have some of the longest place names in the world. It's a land that struggles with its history but still finds ways to laugh, bond, and keep moving forward. Only Australians understand what it means to live in that tension, to celebrate the sunny beach lifestyle while also respecting the harshness of the land. To take pride in a laid-back attitude while also knowing that survival often requires grit, mateship, and yes, a bit of cheeky humor. And maybe that's why outsiders never fully get Australia. Because it's not just about Vegemite or kangaroos or G'day mate. It's about the small, unspoken things that only make sense if you've lived it. Final question. Which of these 10 things felt the most uniquely Australian to you? And Aussies, what did I miss? Drop it in the comments, because your answers will be the real insider guide for everyone watching. So here's the final takeaway. To the rest of the world, Australia looks like a land of sunshine, surfers, and scary animals. But to Australians, it's much deeper than that. It's a culture built on resilience, humor, mateship, and a constant push-pull between old traditions and new realities. You don't just understand Australia by reading about it. You feel it when you laugh off a terrifying spider, when you gather around a barbecue, when you say no worries and actually mean it. And maybe that's the secret. Being Australian isn't about knowing the words or following the rituals. It's about carrying that laid-back, tough yet cheerful spirit into everything you do. So next time someone says, "Only Australians would get this," you'll know, it's not just a joke, it's a way of life. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Aussie culture, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more global stories, and share it with a mate who thinks they could survive life down under. And remember, leave a comment telling me what your country has that outsiders never understand. Because no matter where you're from, there's always something only insiders get.